What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. We are working on Project X. This is probably going to be the last video you see before we get the turf and the wrap on here and we get ready to take this thing out of the water. I still have to figure out all the electrical in here. The customer was very adamant about how he wanted me to hook up all the electronics in here. He wants to go above and beyond with all of the wire gauge and any connections, anything that's in here, and I don't blame him. We're doing this once. It's gonna be the baddest Jon Boat ever. And on top of that, it's gonna have a powerhouse load of wires inside this thing. He's never gonna have to worry about anything. We're gonna be hooking up two graphs in the front on the dual graph bridge. He's got a Hummingbird and he's got a Garmin. Both are 10-inch graphs. And then in the back, we're gonna have a balls out swing arm. It's gonna have another Hummingbird 10-inch graph. Those two graphs of Hummingbird are going to be connected in the network hub. They're also going to be connected to the trolling motor. And then on the very front Garmin graph, we're going to be hooking up the live scope, and that's basically going to be used just for the live scope. So I got a lot of wires to pull in here. Now, normally these wires only call for a maximum of 10 gauge for all your graphs. Customer wants 8 gauge. That's what we're going with. I've got a big roll of this wire right here. This is marine grade 10 wire. This is what he called out as a spec, so that's what we're going to use for this stuff. It's a pretty nice way it's set up. It has a white housing on it. Inside of there, it has a black and a red cable individual, so we can split this thing and hook all of our connections up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up two main power blocks, just like this right here. We've got two of these that are going to go into this back transom area right next to the battery tender. Now, one of these is going to be directly connected to the live scope box. The black box is going to be on a standalone battery, and it's going to have this main power supply right here for it in the back of the boat. Then we're going to have another one of these that's going to run to the switch panels in the boat, and that's basically going to be able to turn off everything in the rig with the exception of the graphs. The graphs are going to be hardwired into the batteries. They will have an inline fuse. All the graphs can be ran with the 8-gauge wire. Same thing for the black box. So I'm going to go ahead and pull two cables from the battery compartment all the way up to the front recessed foot pedal tray where the graphs are going to be going, one for each of those. And then I'm going to pull some more wires up into the fuse panel over here where the switches are going to be at. It's going to be our main power in. I got to pull another cable up for the black box. Then from there, I can kind of spider out to figure out how I'm going to lay out all the LEDs and all the other components for the live well that are going to be going into the switch panel. We got a lot to do, guys. Let's get back to work. So I was waiting on this package to come right here. Now this is from Flow-Rite. This is a 10-foot cable, which is basically going to hook up into the bottom of this pump over here. It's going to run up into the switch panel, which is going to be inside of this big hatch right here. Now you just saw where I split this up into a storage area, and the switch panel is going to be in the face of it. Now the switch panel is right here. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to lay this thing out. I mean, this whole build has been kind of challenging, but I gotta make this thing right. There's no way that I can set this up to where it's just gonna be simple, and I gotta kind of play around with it. So the main thing that I gotta worry about is this cable right here. Now this is an 8-foot cable. This is what it came with. I can't use that. It's not long enough, because if I put this in there, you won't be able to remove this pan and pull it out of the boat. You have no slack in it. So the 10-foot cable is gonna allow me to pull this pan out where you can get underneath here and access the fittings and stuff, and the wires that are going to go into these switches and the fuse panel. I've also got a timer over here for the Flow-Rite system. I'm going to incorporate all that into this pan. And this pan, you can see it's pretty overloaded. It's a lot of stuff going in here, but I'm going to figure out how I'm going to lay all that out. The main thing about this though is this main switch right here. This switch is to fill, empty, recirculate. And the cable that's on here is a steel cable. You can see how it hooks into the back of there. Well, this thing has to have, you know, enough room where I can pull this out of here, but it also has to be set up to where it's going to stay tight and it's going to stay sucked in here. I'm probably going to come back and throw like a zip tie or something around here to make sure it doesn't come out of here, because this thing is meant to be installed into something that's permanent. And this pan, it's not really going to be permanent because we're going to be able to remove it. So it throws a wrench into it. But I'm going to get this thing figured out now. I'm going to put all the holes in here and figure out how I'm going to set up the fuse block, the switch panel, timer, everything. It's going into this front electrical panel. Then I'm going to take everything out and I'm going to paint this whole thing and get this thing permanently installed. Alright, so I got this switch panel laid out. Now, this whole electrics block right here, this thing is full. I mean, this is a small box. I wish I could have made it a little bit bigger, but I just didn't have the room for it. But there's a lot going on in here. So, you see what I got here? This is my fuse panel. This is how I'm going to set this up. Now, I marked this out once with a black marker. This is why I keep 2 markers on me and a pen at all times, because this black mark was no good. So, I remarked it with the blue mark. Blue marker is always my secondary. Now I know that the blue mark is what I'm going off of. Disregard all the black marks here. This is pretty simple. This one's already here and fitting. So the only difference is I'm gonna have to offset this hole over here. I need room for my rubber grommet to sit in here. I'm using a 1-inch grommet. And this one could probably be a 1/2 inch. This is just the positive side that's coming in. So it's just one main cable coming in here. Now this one, I needed more room because I need at least a 1-inch grommet over here, because I got to run all of the negatives. They're going to be going into the bus bar right here, plus the main negative that attaches right here. I also have this Flow-Right live well timer right here. This is good. I laid this out with a black one, but I know that's good. Got a 3/8 hole here. We're going to cut out that block right there. And then this is the switch panel. This is good too. It's lined up right here. Cut that out, and then we're good to go. I went ahead and cut this one ahead of time because I needed to drop this in, but it's so tight in here. I need room because I gotta have 3 grommets on each side of this for all the wires coming out of the fuses. And then obviously we got all the ones in the bus bar and the positive, so there's a lot going on, but I got this figured out. And what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and drill and cut all these holes out of here, and then we get a coat of paint on this thing. And I went ahead and put together this live well pump. And this is the main pump. This controls everything in the live well, the fill, the recirculate. So I did have to actually switch around inside of here, the internals, the transom and the live well, they weren't sitting the right direction. So it's kind of complicated. I had to take this thing apart, take the bottom off and flip it around. The internals on this, I'm not 100% sold on. They seem kind of cheap, but I'm hoping they're gonna work. I mean, I do have one of these in my Stratos and it still works, and that thing is like 15 years old, so we'll see. But it seems like a good product. I'm gonna get this installed in the back of the boat and go ahead and 5200 the rest of my live well fittings. That way I can drop this electrical panel hatch in there. But after I paint this, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start installing all of the white LEDs. They're gonna go inside of all the hatches and compartments. I need to get those done. Let's get this stuff going, guys. Let's get back to work. Look at the color on that thing, man. That's sweet. Switch panel turned out great. It's metallic, dark metal. It's gonna look really good with our colorway in here. I was going to start running all these white LED lights in here, but I realized that I forgot I need to wrap this cooler first. And I hadn't put a sheet in here, and I want to paint inside of here before I put any LEDs in here. So I wrapped the cooler. This is a good sized cooler, man. You can definitely keep enough food and drinks in here for 2 guys all day long fishing a tournament. And now that that's insulated, I wanted to put a sheet over this. Well, I don't think I have a piece that's big enough here. I actually cut one today, and I forgot to bring the damn thing home with me. So I'm gonna see if I can do that and get that painted. If not, I got a lot of other nicks and knacks and things that I need to get wrapped up, lots of electrical wires. So let's see what we got going, guys. Let's get back to work. All right, so I've been busy doing a lot of electrical. Got this thing pretty much finished up. All the wires are ran for the switches. I just got to hook it up in there with all the cables that are going to come into it that are going to make it to where I can't permanently pull it out of there no more than like a foot or 2. And I'm not ready to do all that until I get some more wires pulled. But I did get that done. I got the cable up in here, and that's for the valve that goes to 3-way valve. I got his bilge pump installed, the hose for that. Everything is hooked up. And you can see back here, I got the main pump. That's hooked up. These fittings are permanently installed. And the bottom one's attached. I still got to attach this top one, but I want to run the cables for this and plug this in to make sure that the pump and everything is working before I make that permanent. I've had enough electrical, man. I still got to clean up all these wires for this charging port, and I had it all nice and neat. But the problem with that is that it puts too much access inside of here, and I still have to hook up his big fuse blocks. He's got thick gauge wire for all the graphs, so I'm gonna have to take this off and pull all these wires back here and try to clean them up nice and neat down underneath either side of this charger, so there's not any excess in there, only what I need. I'm not tackling all this right now. It's just too much electrical. I need a break from electrical for a minute. Get back to my roots. Let's do some welding and fabrication. So what I'm gonna do, if you look at this trailer, I mean, it looks kind of plain. I mean, these diamond plate fenders, these are sick, but stepping on this over time, it's gonna end up giving out. It's not made to step on all the time. Plus, the trailer just looks kind of plain. And I really wanna make this look more like a bass boat trailer. So I made some pieces. Diamond plate, 1/8 inch. This is gonna work out cool. I'm gonna drop this one back here like that. Now I gotta notch this, cut out this section so it can lay flat, but it'll sit up on that galvanized angle there. I can shoot a couple bolts in there, and I can come through this piece, put a bolt through that, and that's gonna give them a step in the back. Really cleans that trailer up. And then I made another one here for the front. Now, same type of deal. I got to come back and weld a piece across here, just like how this one is bent. I couldn't bend this one too. I mean, I probably could have, but it was just a little bit too much to try to lay all that out in the brake, and I can just weld this in like 5 minutes and be done with it. But I'm going to do the same thing here. I got that angle in the back. I can rest this on. And then up front here, I've got another one of these U-bolts. I picked this up. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to drop this over here, and then I've got this big piece of angle right here. This is like a 2 by 3 inch angle, and it's thick. It's 1/4 inch thick. I'm gonna cut a piece, maybe about 10 inches, maybe a little bit longer. Just gonna have to run up underneath it here, go through these U-bolts and stick out, and then I can attach this to it in the front. And then he'll have a step on either side of his fender, and it's really gonna make this boat look more like a bass boat trailer. Plus, I just think it's sick. So I'm gonna go ahead and change gears and get these pieces finished up and installed. And then I'm gonna get back onto this electrical, because this electrical's gotta be done, but it's just draining me. Let's get back to work. All right, so man, that looks so much better. God, that is sick. Turned out really good. You see how I did this? There's my big angle right there. And I put the taller side going vertical. I feel like it'll have more stress that way, but this thing's 1/4 inch thick. I just stood on it. It's plenty strong enough to stand on. Put this piece on top and come back and run our bolts through the top of this. Probably 4 bolts, 2 here and 2 here. Same thing in the back. Completely changes the look of this trailer. Looks way more aggressive. Now this is what Project X trailer needs to look like. Let's go do the other side. All right, so we made a lot of progress with all this electrical. Now I got a confession to make. I kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul with some of these LED lights. Now custom LED lights, big ups on these LEDs you sent us for this build. Complete 100% sponsorship. They sent me 4 of these, 2 sets, interior and exterior rails. They're green and white flip-flops. Well, I stole a pair of these a couple months ago, put them on a tracker, and I ordered some more green ones, not realizing that the ones I got were solid green and not the ones that are interchangeable 2 colors. So what I did was install them in the boat, and in the last episode you saw I had all the green lights going. Well, that's because 2 of them were solid green, and unfortunately both of the ones that were solid green ended up going onto the same side on the starboard. I had an interior and exterior, and they just weren't going to flip-flop to white, and the other side had a green and a white. If I had realized before I started installing these lights, then I would have just put the green ones on the outside and then had the green and white ones on the interior. But, you know, it's done and I had to remove them. So I took both the green strips off and I put 2 new strips of these interchangeable 2 ways between the green and white. Big shout outs to Custom LEDs because they sent me those and I got them in like 2 days. But check out this switch panel. See how it's sitting in the center? It's off. Well, you go up, your exterior whites come on, you go down, your exterior greens come on. It's pretty simple. I'm gonna show you how I hook that up. But I mean, I think it's really dope. Be able to have the white in case you really need to have some good light, and you can have the green if you just want to have like a low light. And I mean, green looks cool too. But check out the back of this switch. I'll show you how I did this. So it looks like there's a lot going on, but it's really not that crazy. You can see how these lines right here are crisscrossing. Same thing over here. You got the X crisscross. Well, Custom LEDs sent me a diagram, which I think is up on their website, and this is the one that came with my 3-way switches. Now the difference between this diagram and their diagram is that this 3-way switch and this one has an extra pin on the top for a spade connector, and the reason for that is because this switch has an LED light in it. So the diagram they have only has these 6 in here. That's just a different style switch, but it's very simple to hook up. So the main thing you got to remember is that these 2 in the center are going to be for your power. So you got your hot and your negative coming into those 2. Then the other ones are going to be, so it says pole winch here, but this is basically just like your red or your black cables coming in from your accessory, from the LED. One's going to go into the top, one's going to go into the bottom. And then from there, you're going to jump it across like an X, make that crisscross. You can see how they did it here. They're just showing it going outside. But in theory, this one's going to that one and this one's going to that one. So they do make a crisscross like an X in there. And that's it. It's that simple. Now, I just ran this negative one coming back from here. Obviously, I just ran that back to the fuse block, has the bus bar in it. And then we have our main power that's coming in from one of the fuses that's in the panel up front. There's no fuses back here. I also put a USB charger port in here. I'm going to hook this up. I got to run some more stuff for the wires for the rest of these switches that's in here. He's got 4 more switches. I'm going to have his nav lights back here, the bilge pump back here. And I'm not sure. He might just have an extra switch or 2 in here. But I'm going to get this stuff wrapped up, guys, because this build is looking sick. And I'm ready to finish this project up. Hopefully, I can get all the rest of this electrical in here and start putting these hatches in here ASAP. And then we'll be able to start installing some turf in this bad boy. Let's get back to work. All right, so check it out, man. 95% of the wiring is done. I am pumped. There's so much involved into wiring a boat with as much stuff as this one has into it. And that is just like a humongous weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm pretty much ready for turf. I mean, the only other thing I have to do as far as the wires go, I've got these big 8-gauge wires here. I just have to splice them and put connectors on them and connect them to his main battery that's gonna feed all of the fish finders. That's all it is. He's got 3 wires here. 2 are for the front 2 graphs and 1's for the black box. And there's a 4th wire that's gonna run up here. He's got another graph that's gonna sit on the balls out here. Other than that, that's it. I gotta hook the graphs up on this end of the wire. The wires are already pulled where they need to be, up inside of here for the front 2 graphs and the black box. Same thing with the one on the side. These are all the connections that I gotta do in here for hooking up and networking the graphs and his puck over here, the GPS, and you know, all the normal trolling motor stuff. This is his Minn Kota Hummingbird hub. This is simple stuff though, and this is stuff that I don't have to do now because I'm just going to put this up underneath it here, and I will have access to this even at a later date once the turf is installed, because this recessed foot pedal tray is going to be removable. I am going to go ahead and get at least the power cables hooked up here with all the pieces off of all these graphs right here. So once I get to that stage of the game, all I gotta do is drop the graphs in there, connect them, and be done with them. But man, this thing is dope looking. The side panel over here turned out sick. I'm real happy with the way that looks. And I'll tell you what, that piece of turf that goes over that, whew, it's gonna finish it off perfectly. And up in this compartment, we've got our front compartment switch right here. That's not attached yet. I gotta screw that in. Gonna have to do a little bit of touch up on some paint in there too, and might even throw some vinyl decals in there, but man, this thing is looking sweet. These 2-color LEDs are where it's at, man. It's got these first 2 switches. Whew. That white looks good though. That white's gonna look real sick once we got all this turf in here, but I like the green too. It's definitely a nice accent. It's gonna be sick. Never done one with the 2-way colors before, but I will be doing them in the future. I guarantee you that. Got everything cleaned up back here. Nice and neat. The pump's all hooked up. I still gotta tuck some of these wires up here. But man, we're getting there. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And next video, this boat is gonna be getting turfed. I'm hyped. All right, so I know it's been a minute since I dropped a video on this project. I'm sorry, but this is very involved, guys. I mean, there's so many wires that goes into this thing. Everybody sees all the Trick 10's rigs and they're like, man, that's really sick. It's got all those lights and accessories and switches, and every compartment has lights and USB chargers, the whole 9 yards. But what you don't realize is it literally takes like 40 hours to rig a boat like this. And I haven't even done the wiring for the graphs yet. I mean, I've already pulled them, but still got like another hour just worth of putting connectors together and installing all of those wires for the graphs. So it's very involved, man. I appreciate you guys that have watched this video all the way through. Though the video is getting kind of long, I'm ready to rock and roll on this project. Now I moved the boat over into my new garage. I'm getting ready to move in like 3 weeks, guys. So pray for me that everything falls through and works out the way it should. But it's been insane, man. This project is almost done though. We did get approved for the wrap. The wrap is dope, and it's really gonna set this thing off. I already have the turf. The turf is here. I might show y'all a little sneak peek of that at the end of this video after the credits, because it's freaking dope, man. And next video, I'm just gonna pick up where I got all of these hatches installed, and I'm putting this turf in the boat and installing the graphs and the trolling motor in it. I gotta put the outboard on here too. I'm not gonna be able to open this thing up. It hasn't been broken in yet, but you better believe that I'm putting this thing out on the water, and I'm at least gonna get some footage of it and some pictures and reels for Instagram and TikTok. It's going to be insane, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. Hit that like, subscribe button. Y'all want to help me out, go cop some of my merch. You can get that on trick10s.net. If you want any metal products, send me an email, professionalwelding@gmail.com. If you want to check out the metal work that I have available, go to my website, Jonboats.com. Now, I don't have everything that I sell up there, and the hatches that I have up there are just like a standard. But if you want something that's going to be similarly sized, it's going to be similarly priced. So keep that in mind. Send me an email with any questions or anything you guys got. I'd love to help you all out. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment. I'm going to get back to building the baddest Jon boat in the world. I'll see y'all next time.